All right. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Great to see everyone. Awesome. Everyone's joining in. I love it. Welcome, everyone. We're going to be getting underway soon. You will notice you're on mute, but we love it if you can have video on so we can see you. If you can, if you're eating lunch or dinner or something like that, that's okay. But we'd love to see your faces if you can pop your video on. And we'll be diving into the workshop for today. Now, honestly, just excited to be here with Jillian again. First thing I would love everyone to do is we want to hear where you are in the world and what you do, right? Can you just pop into the chat where you are in the world and what you do creatively, right? So pop that in the chat. We'd love to see your faces if you want to pop your video on, and also just pop that in chat. Where are you? And what do you do creatively? Now, I actually, people that don't know me already, they'll be going, that accent was surprising. I am from New Zealand, but we'll talk a bit more about that. However, I'm not in New Zealand right now. I'm actually in Argentina at the moment. So I'm here for a couple of months. So probably in a similar time zone to a lot of you, but I do spend a lot of time in the US and occasionally Europe too. Jillian, where are you today?
I'm in Connecticut, and it's spring here, so I'm feeling good. I never know where you are, so it's good to hear you're in Argentina.
We do always have a laugh about that. And, those of you that don't know, Argentina is actually only an hour off East Coast time right now. So it's
Okay.
actually 2 p.m. here. So only an hour off. So there we go. It did switch. I'm sure everyone is aware. Daylight savings always causes a bit of a nightmare for everyone in the US. Daylight savings and Canada as well. Daylight savings just changed. I'm sure those of you in the US and Canada know that. Those of you outside might be going, oh, I didn't know that happened. Daylight saving is always a bit of a nightmare for us within our programs because it changes at different times in different parts of the world. And we have some clients in Europe as well, which do have daylight savings, but it changes at different times. So there we go. So a bit of fun facts behind the scenes there as well. Hey, great to see people starting to pop into the chat where they are and what they're doing creatively as well. There's a few familiar names here I recognize as well. So it's so good to see those of you that we've met before, and great to be connecting with new people here as well. So if you've just joined us, please pop in the chat where you are in the world, and also popping in what you do creatively or what you're wanting to do more of creatively. That's totally fine as well. So great to see people popping in the chat there through the US and different places, Canada. Amazing, fantastic. I think we should get underway. Let's dive into. I'll hand over to you, Jillian, so you can get us underway with the webinar.
Cool. Sounds good. Yeah. Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here. So if you don't know me, my name's Jillian. I'm Jag Inc. on the internet, and I'm an illustrator and muralist based in Connecticut. I've been running my own creative business for about 4 years now. And I'm super excited to introduce you to Logan. He is my business coach. So Logan has had his own creative business for 11 years. And since then has worked with hundreds of graphic designers, muralists, illustrators, and all kinds of visual creatives, including me, to help them grow their own businesses and leave their day jobs and to build those businesses of their dreams. So I've been working with Logan for over a year now. And in that time, I've really been able to grow my own business, take it more seriously, and grow my confidence and land commissions that I have been dreaming of for so long. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Logan.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Jillian. And I know there's people here that don't know me. I know there's some people that do know me. So great to connect with those of you that we have not connected with before, and great to see people that we have in the past too. So look, my background is Jillian mentioned, is yes, I had my own creative business for 11 years. It was in the live event space, actually in New Zealand. And basically, in the early years of running that creative business, I started getting involved in the education space. Basically, the universities wanted me to come into their programs and help them with the business side of creative businesses. So I went and studied my own entrepreneurship masters and then ended up doing a lot of contract teaching with universities right across New Zealand, right up to a master's level, plus some public programs as well. Eventually, like things do, that morphed into more of my own teaching, coaching, mentoring, of lots of different types: online, offline, on stage, big groups, small groups, one-on-one, everything you can think of. And it grew over the years, and then eventually that is what I decided to do full time. So my background is, yes, I am a creative myself. However, I'm very passionate about the business side of creativity too. So the business that I run these days, Flamboyant Entrepreneur, we help visual creatives to grow their businesses. So the people we work with, when I say visual creatives, they tend to be people within spaces like illustration or graphic design, but also we've worked with people in lots of other areas as well. Muralists, interior designers, occasionally even people like photographers and videographers, but very much the core tends to be in illustration and graphic design. Now, the people we end up working with, most of them are throughout the US and Canada. So about 90% of our clients are in the US and Canada. We're actually a US-based business ourselves. And also we do work with people in Europe and occasionally other parts of the world as well. And I kind of, we think about, the type of people, what do they fit into? Well, one group are like, hey, I have a day job and I'm doing a little bit of creative work on the side. I would love to maybe leave that day job and do this full time. So that's group one that we work with. Group two are a little bit more like Jillian. Hey, I'm doing this. I've been doing it for a bit now, but I really want to increase my revenue. I want to do it in a more sustainable way as well. And I want to work with more awesome people doing the work that I love. So that's kind of group two. Group three are like, hey, Logan, I've been doing this for like 10 or 20 years, and I really want to sometimes pivot what they do within their creative business. Sometimes they still want to grow it to another level or get more sustainability in it as well. We also occasionally work with people with larger followings. About 10% of our clients have over 10,000 followers, including Jillian. A lot of people don't have those large followings on Instagram, but occasionally we do work with people with large followings, which is awesome as well. So that's a bit of a fast forward overview. I do occasionally run retreats as well. I don't have any retreats planned for this year. However, run retreats in France and Italy and New Zealand, Morocco last year. There are lots of different locations as well, creative artpreneur retreats. So there we go. So that's a bit of an overview. I'm honestly really excited about running today's webinar and workshop. This is something that we love to do, and being able to partner up with Jillian here to be able to be here and meet all of you here is fantastic. Now, one thing that we are doing as part of today's webinar is we are giving away three free calls with myself. They are 30-minute coaching calls. Look, we love being able to do that because we get to help awesome people. We also get to connect with awesome people as well. So how that works is I'm going to drop a survey link. It's a form that you fill in. I would love everyone here just to open that up and take a look. I'll drop it in here right now. Pop open that link. And if you fill that in, we will just be going through and selecting 3 people to have 30-minute calls with me. We'll also be selecting a whole lot more people to get on calls with Paul. He's our creative business specialist from our team. He is amazing. We'll get a whole lot more of you on calls with him as well to share some tips and ideas within that there too. So please do pop that open. It takes about 5 to 10 minutes to fill in. Everyone that fills that in always says, wow, that was really useful, whether or not they end up getting on a call with myself or Paul. It really helps you with clarity around where your business is at, where your gaps are, or if you don't have a business right now, where your dreams are at, and those good things. So honestly, whether you're watching the recording or here with us live today, open that up. We're going to follow up with an email within the link, but pop it open now so you've got it in the background, and you can do the form after this call, and we'll get the 3 people selected. And then myself or Celeste from our team will be in touch with you to let you know, how that's been set up. And those of you that have been chosen will be getting those calls all set up sometime in the next few weeks. Amazing. So definitely keep an eye out for an email from Celeste from our team as well. Okay, let's dive into it. Honestly, I'm so excited about today's training. We're going to be taking you through some creative business tips, the things that we see being a challenge for people, the things that we see getting in people's way, and things that get in the way of people growing their own businesses. The first one we're going to jump into is around creating boundaries for your work, right? There's kind of different ways to talk about boundaries, but we're really going to talk about more your own boundaries of you growing your own creative business, right? We're going to talk a bit about client boundaries a bit later on, but first of all, we're going to talk about your boundaries. Now, one of the beautiful things about running your own business is that you get to decide when you work, how you work, what you work on. Those are beautiful things. You get to actually have a lot of freedom and flexibility. And that's one of the things that our clients that we end up working with often say. They say, hey, I want more freedom, flexibility in the work that I do. I want to be able to do the work that I absolutely love. Also, I want to be able to take Mondays off when I want to, or maybe go to a movie on a Wednesday in the middle of the day. That's great as well. flexibility, time to spend with family, friends, those good things there as well. At the same time, that can be really hard because sometimes what happens is, yeah, it's really easy just to take a bunch of time off and feel very demotivated. We need to also create boundaries for your work as well. So yes, it's beautiful that you get to decide when you work. Honestly, one of the things we recommend is that you still treat it in some ways like a job, right? So what does that mean? It means you should still have standard work hours that you get to decide on. And occasionally you get to maybe break the rules. Because what can happen is if you can work whenever you want and you're passionate about what you do, you may end up working all hours, day and night, working on weekends, and that's what leads to burnout. Right. So we've got to really make sure we get some good boundaries around that. So actually having a plan, which is I work this time to this time. Right. So that's a very, very important thing to decide on. As I said, you kind of get to actually treat it like a day job, even if it is part-time and you are doing your creative business on top of a day job. Okay, well, what are your hours of your part-time other job that you have, right? So that's a really good way to think about it. Another couple of things that I would really encourage you to do is to have a place of work, right? Place of work doesn't mean you have to go out of the house or go to a co-working space. You could, right? You could. We have clients that get an office or go to a co-working space. It's more about having a place of work wherever you are choosing to work. If that is in your house, if you have a spare room or a room that you can use as an office or a studio, amazing. That's ideal. But if you don't have space, well, what could you do? Is there a specific place where you can work? I think it's a bit of a dream to be able to be like, yeah, I just work from the couch all day. However, you're probably going to not feel super motivated working from a couch all day, to be honest, actually having a place you can work from. So that's something we do really recommend. Also, another beautiful thing about owning your own business and running your own business, you can wear what you want, right? So we can wear our pajamas, we can hang out in our sweatpants. The thing is, sometimes that won't motivate you to feel like you are in work mode. So we talk about work uniforms. Is that actually for me, I find putting my shirt on, even when I'm not on calls, putting my shirt on, I feel like I'm in work mode, right? So rather than just hanging out in my yoga clothes, look, sometimes I do. Sometimes I hang out in my yoga clothes and that's more comfortable. But often what I notice is I feel like going and doing yoga. I don't feel like doing work. So we need to really be mindful of that balance as well. So those are some things to really think about. You also need to think about the boundaries you set with the people around you as well, friends and family. Right, because if you are working from home on your own business, sometimes friends and family, if they're around, might just feel like, oh, it's not like a real job. So, I can just call you whenever I can pop in, or hey, let's talk about dinner. And you're like, I'm in the middle of my workday here. Like, can we talk about that later? Well, they're interrupting you, right? So part of it is also setting boundaries with the people around you as well, saying, hey, these are my work hours. I'm going to have breaks at these times. Yes, absolutely. We can have lunch together. Headphones are great. One of the things I love about headphones is it's a signal to the people around you that you are working, you're busy. You don't even have to be listening to anything for that to be effective. The better thing is to have these big headphones, even if you don't listen to any music as you work, because then people will be like, oh, they're busy working. You take them off, it can be a signal that, hey, you're open to chit chat as well. So a bit of fun stuff there. Jillian, would love to hear some of your thoughts around the boundaries within this work side as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think that that's kind of one of the biggest things that I've learned in the past year. Just to, if you put these boundaries in place, that you are working specific hours, you have a specific place to go, and you're wearing your jeans or whatever. It is a business, and you can treat yourself like a professional. And I wasn't really doing that before I started coaching, and that was like a really big mindset shift for me. I have my big headphones right over here, and I can just like plug in and work, like, and treat myself like a business. And then the other thing that I think is really valuable is just learning how you like to function as a professional. Like, I like to have slow mornings, and I don't push myself to start at 9 and like work 9 to 5. And I love that I can do that. I can start working at like noon and then, work for as many hours as I need to. And just learning your own like rhythm of working is has been really beneficial.
I love it. So powerful. And I think, this is a really good point here that Jillian shared is that you get to decide. You don't have to run it like you did in a day job. You could you get to decide that, but you could have your own rhythm as well. And we noticed that. We noticed that different people we work with have different rhythms as well. Part of it is working out what rhythm works for you, and sometimes experimenting, trying some different things. You know what? Like, how does it feel to work in the evenings and not work in the mornings? What does that look like? Okay, well, that kind of was cool. Let's try that. And then maybe 3 months later, it doesn't work as well, and you get to change and shift these things. I think if you're working in a day job, it's kind of harder to do that and be like telling your boss, hey, just let you know, I want to test out only working in the evenings. They'll be like, not really how we roll over here. So, that's one of the great things there too. Next thing we're going to talk about, I'm going to dive into what I call debunking this idea of perfection. Now, this can kind of be in lots of different places within your own creative business, but one of the things that we see is that people want to perfect what they're doing, right? So, for example, if you're releasing your creative work into the world, you want it to be really amazing, because if someone was to criticize that, they're criticizing you. That hurts. That's painful. One of the things we really see when you get into running your own business is that you will be needing to take imperfect action to move this business forward. Now, if we're talking about the business side, we can talk about imperfect action in terms of doing the things like marketing or the social media. You could sit down and spend hours trying to figure out the perfect reel or post on Instagram. And you probably will never post it because you'll be like, I can't get it to perfect. It's really hard to reach perfection. However, if you just post something that is good enough and put it out there, you're going to learn. You're going to learn what people do react to. You're going to learn what people do like, and you're going to be posting other things. So being very aware that perfection and perfection mindset can really hold you back. We see it on the creative side as well, is that, yeah, you're wanting to release the perfect thing out there, but actually perfection can be really hard to meet, especially if you're not putting yourself out there and trying things. So I'm sure, many of you here will go, yeah, when I started with my creative skills, I wasn't very good, and but embarrassing. Maybe you've even archived those Instagram posts from a while ago. That's fine, but it's what got you to where you are now. Same happens on the business side as well. The sort of marketing that you're doing early on probably won't be amazing. That's okay. Is it good enough? Right? Good. That's important. But is it perfect? Probably not. How do you get closer to perfection? You take action. You review. You try different things as you go as well. So just want everyone to be really aware of that. Now, I am not saying put rubbish into the world. There is a different thing here. I'm saying put stuff out that is good enough. Okay. So, there's a good saying, is this good enough? Rather than going, hey, is this perfect? Is this good enough? So there's quite a difference between those things. I'm not saying, just it's fine, just drop it, even if it's rubbish, it's fine. No, still put care into what you do. Still take an effort to put it out there so it is good enough. Would love to hear more of your perspective around this as well, Jillian, because I know it's been a big journey for you around these things too.
Yeah, I think we can all probably relate to that, and just in terms of, I think we're kind of ingrained to try to be perfect, especially if you've gone through like the school system where you're trying to get A's, as I was one of those students. So letting that go is very hard. But it's so true that just taking imperfect action, just like a small thing every day can really move you very forward on this journey. And I paint murals, and sometimes I could really sit there for weeks to make this perfect mural and have every stroke be exactly as I want it. But then when you step back, it looks great. So you don't actually need to spend all of that time perfecting your strokes and putting like every little layer into your mural, because there's not always time for that. So that's probably the biggest lesson. Painting murals has taught me that if you step back, it still looks good. It's perspective.
It's perspective, right? It is. It's perspective, and like I think as creatives, it can be really hard to have that perspective yourself sometimes as well. And you and I have talked about this as well, Jillian. Like bringing in other people's perspectives can be really important too. Like sometimes the eye of the creator, you kind of like, oh, you see all the imperfections as well, and go, oh, I don't have that piece. When actually maybe the client or someone else is going, it's amazing, like it's incredible. So that kind of perspective is important as well. So I love that. So good. Just before we move on to the next point, I would love everyone to share their Instagram here in the chat. I'm going to drop mine. Jillian's going to drop hers as well. Please grab the URL like I've done, so it's a clickable link for everyone. This is a great way to get you connecting with each other. let's get you getting some more followers on Instagram. We would also love to follow everyone here if we're not already. Both Jillian and I would like to. So please open it up in a website, like go to a web bar, you'll get your information and copy and paste it in here, and you get following with other people that share in the chat as well. You want to make sure it's a clickable link, not just an @ tag in that there too. So this is always a great way to connect with some awesome people within our people here today. It's always fantastic. So pop that in the chat. We'll get people connecting. Jillian and I will get following to you all as well. Amazing people are starting to pop things in the chat now, so we'll make sure we follow you and get connected there as well. Okay, feel free to pop in at any time, but I'm going to keep on moving forward. The next thing we're going to talk about is what we call growing through discomfort. Growing through discomfort. Growing a creative business is unfortunately not always a comfortable journey. Okay, and if it's easy and you're like, I don't know what you're talking about, Logan, it's easy, it's comfortable. I'm like, well, you're probably not pushing your own potential that much, right? You're taking the easy road. You're only leveraging your strengths rather than actually also working on some of the weaknesses you have, right? So it's a very important thing to be aware of is that there is going to be discomforts. And one of the things I love to talk about is that opportunity for you is going to lie outside of your comfort zone. I think a lot about is you probably all seen this online. The circle, this is your comfort zone, right? Within the circle, actually the opportunities are outside that. Now, I will say the opportunities are probably not too far outside that comfort zone, because if you get too far outside of your comfort zone, you're going to get overwhelmed and you're going to be like, this is too terrifying. I'm not going to do anything. Right? It's easier just to not even get out of bed today. So we talk about, yes, getting you outside of your comfort zone, but not too far, right? Can you dip your toe outside that comfort zone? Can you give it a go? Can you try some things? So this here is really important to note. Look, I get to, one of the things I get to do with the people that we work with, as well as the people we talk to, look, we get to see what gets in people's way and also what people think about when they're trying to grow their own business. And there's something that people say sometimes that kind of annoys me a little bit. And it's the phrase that doesn't resonate with me, right? That doesn't resonate with me. Now, I get it. We have to often feel, does something resonate with me? How does something feel? We base a lot of decisions off feeling. One of the things we need to note is that sometimes you're going to have to do the uncomfortable things or the things that feel a bit scary to move things forward. So if something doesn't resonate with you, it might just be because you haven't done it before and it's a bit scary, right? So therefore, if you're like, I'm just going to do the things that feel good, resonate with me, then you're probably going to be always taking that easier road. Now, sometimes you've got to do the things that are easier and resonate with you. I get that, but we've got to be careful that we're not using that as a phrase to stop doing the things that are a little bit difficult, right? Well, no, that feels uncomfortable. Like, and we sometimes talk about things like cold email. Oh, that doesn't resonate with me, Logan. I don't want to do that. Why do you feel like that? It's often because you just haven't done it before. There's some misconceptions you have about what's involved. And you don't even know where to start. You don't know what it looks like. It's just that you feel like, oh, cold email, that's those spam emails that everyone gets in their inbox, right? Like from these people that you do not want to work with, you don't want to buy this product, or, I'm sure you all get some spam messages on Instagram where people are like, want to work with this, right? We get them all the time as well. And it's just like a copy and paste type message, and they're just trying to sell something to you. So that there is something that we need to be really aware of, is that things aren't always going to resonate with you. Things aren't always going to feel comfortable. Now, of course, I'm not saying just get really, really uncomfortable. I'm not really into that like hustle culture, throw yourself in the absolute deep end and you'll figure it out. Well, no, like we need to have safety as well. We need to sometimes act within the comfort zone, tiptoe out, try some things, get back to the comfort zone as well. So this is certainly part of it. Another piece of this relating to comfort is basically understanding that failure is part of business. Failure is part of business. And we ran one of our trainings with our clients this week was around this, around actual failure, and how failure is a very normal part of business. Because what some people do is they say, you know what? Hopefully I won't fail. Hopefully I will get lucky. Hopefully I won't make any mistakes, right? If I do this all right, then hopefully it'll all go well. And therefore, nothing will go wrong. And then what happens? Something goes wrong. They make a mistake. They make a stuff up. And they go, oh, why me? I'm unlucky. What Logan says is, hey, you are going to experience failure. hey, you are going to get some things wrong. You are going to make some mistakes, and brick walls are going to get in your way. You're going to be really frustrated by it. You're going to be like, oh, why is this thing in my way? It's so annoying, right? What I'm saying is, hey, if you're experiencing difficulties and failure and discomfort at times, it says that you're giving things a go. You're having a real go at growing this creative business. You're putting yourself out there. You're getting outside of that comfort zone. And what also comes from failure? Learning, right? You're going to learn stuff as you go. At the time, it may not feel like a great opportunity for learning, but looking back, you'll be like, wow, thank goodness I got that wrong and I fell back there, because I learned something from that I'm now able to apply in the future as well. So I kind of think this is being a bit backwards, because we're like, no, Logan, like, we want success. We don't want failure. One of the interesting things we see is that you experiencing challenges and failures is what will help you lead towards the growth and the success. Right? There's a lot of really great illustrations online around this concept too, but literally it's not, hey, well, hopefully I'll get to success. It's like, no, you're going to go via the failures, and they will get you to those successes. So, an important thing, a little bit backwards to think about, because we're like, no, we just want success. Well, no, there's going to be failure along the way. And when you experience failure, don't just say, why me? Oh, I should give up. It's going, okay, right. What's the learning here? How do I figure this out? How do I do better in the future as well? So relationship with the stuff is important, and growing through discomfort can be challenging, but important as well. I'd love to hear your thoughts around this as well, Jillian, your reflections on discomfort too.
Sure. Yeah, there have been so many uncomfortable things in running a business. Like right now, I've been leaning into following up with dead leads. And that's like maybe one of the most uncomfortable things for me. Personally, the fear of reaching out, like annoying people, really holds me back. But I know that it's important, and I know that I could get, work from it. And I know it's something that I just have to get over and do. So yeah, with the help of coaching, I've really been able to do that. Still a little scared of it, I will say. It is still very uncomfortable, but it's gotten a lot better and a lot easier in the past year of doing that. So baby steps on that front.
For sure. And I think this is important to recognize that, like, this is an ongoing thing, right? Like, getting uncomfortable. It's not like you just, okay, cool, I did the hard stuff and now I'm doing the easy stuff. It's like, no, the challenges actually get bigger. Right? I think this is something that people don't really realize, is that the challenges will get bigger. You just get better at dealing with bigger challenges. Right? Like, this is going to be part of that journey as well, is like, more the difficult things, you will get better at dealing with difficult things. I remember in my early years of running my own business, I was like, well, hopefully this hard stuff I'm experiencing at the moment will all disappear, and then everything will be cruisy and easy, and I'll be able to, put my feet up and really make this business work. It's like, well, no, the challenges actually just got bigger. I just got better at dealing with the challenges. I got smarter. I got more careful. Obviously, I avoided more problems, failures as well, right? That's part of this too, is that, yes, I'm not saying just conspire and create failure, or conspire to create negative situations. No, you don't want to do that. Let's avoid them where possible. I'm saying that they are going to happen anyway, and you're going to learn from them, and it's going to help you deal with the bigger challenges as you grow as well. So such an important topic, and I love that we've been able to dive into that. What we're going to take everyone through next is what we call the one thing in marketing. This is something I talk a lot about because it's really, really important around focus. So what we hear online, right? What we hear from the internet is, you got to be everywhere, right? You got to be everywhere. You've got to, people need to see you everywhere to be able to trust to work with you. I do not believe it's true, and it's not something that we've seen true from working with many, many people through the stuff. You do not need to be everywhere. Instead, you need to focus your energy when it comes to marketing, right? Okay, you might want to be in several places. That's good. But we can talk about the 80-20 rule here. Actually focusing your energy in one place, 80% in terms of your marketing, is a really smart way to do it. Right, so what am I talking about here? I'm really saying that in terms of how people get to know you, you should really focus that into one area. For example, let's say Instagram, right? That could be a place where you could focus a lot of energy, and that can be your one thing when it comes to marketing. That can mean that if your one thing is Instagram, then you're going to focus a lot of your marketing energy into that. Now, what does that mean? If Instagram's your big thing of focus, well, It means you probably should be using DMs. You probably should be learning about the latest updates. You're probably going to have to do at least some reels occasionally, right? You need to explore the different features on Instagram and use them and try collaborations and try different elements. So if that's your one thing, you really want to lean into that. Of course, yes, you're going to spend some energy on other things as well, but it's really around where the core of the energy goes. Because what we often see people do is they try and do lots of different things. They feel very overwhelmed by it and they're not really anywhere enough, right? So they're like, well, I'm kind of playing around with Instagram. I'm kind of playing around with a little bit of outreach. I'm kind of playing around with some partnerships. And they're playing around with all these different things and they're not really getting enough happening because they're not putting enough energy into an individual area, right? Social media in general, we can talk about, right? You could be everywhere. You could be on like 5 different platforms. If you're on 5 different platforms and you're engaging across all of them, what you're really doing is you're just diluting your energy on each of them. You're much better to say, focus most of your energy on one platform. And yes, you could have accounts on others. You could have some auto posting happening. You could be experimenting and spending 10% of your energy on something else. Right, that's a good thing to do. However, you really want to focus things in. So the types of things we tend to see people focusing in tend to be things like, yes, social media. Often it is Instagram for visual creatives. Also, sometimes it's other things like networking or like partnerships or outreach or relationship building. There's lots of different ways to get yourself out there and build a business, but it tends to be one of those things that you really focus on within a creative business as well. One thing I will mention around this, we sometimes talk to people or we start working with people who say, oh, my one thing is repeat clients, right? And that's what is working in the business so far. What we tend to see, if you're just reliant on ongoing repeating clients, is that over time, your revenue will slowly decrease, right? Because some of those clients won't keep working with you and you might end up really reliant on 1 or 2 clients. And then if they stop working with you or stop getting projects to you, suddenly your revenue drops and you're in big trouble, right? So we've got to be very, very aware that often that's not the one thing. It's not usually just relying on those existing relationships, because over time, your business is probably going to shrink. Actually, you need to be bringing in new opportunities. All right, it's actually pretty easy to sit here and say, hey, come to me. I'm good at what I do. People come to you. Great, ongoing relationships, things there. That can work for a little bit, but actually, in most cases, you need to be putting yourself out there, right? You need the right people to know you actually exist. So that's where it's around these more proactive forms of marketing as well. Referrals can help. Referrals can help too. It's generally not going to be the one thing, right? Referrals from existing clients for most types of creative businesses, it's not going to be enough to grow and sustain a long-term business here as well. You've got to be doing that proactive stuff as well. I'd love to hear your thoughts around this, Jillian, as well from your journey too.
Yeah, so my one thing is Instagram, and it has been for as the whole time that I've had this business. And I think just knowing that, like pinpointing that that is my one thing, gives you permission to like go all in on it. Um, Instead of thinking like, oh, I also need to be posting on all of these different things, like just the focus of having that one thing and knowing that that is your thing is really useful. And then you can like give yourself permission to like actually spend time on this one thing and treat it like it's for business. So it's not just like for fun and for like talking to friends. It's like actually a part of your business. So once you have the permission to do that, I think it makes more sense for you, like a mindset thing, to be able to really put your attention into it and like actually spend some time like making stuff for Instagram and promoting your work there. Yeah, so it's like that mindset shift of just like this is a professional platform and this is how I'm using it has been really useful for me.
It's and it's so powerful to recognize that. And yeah, for you it's been quite clear, which is good because you've built this great following. That's really awesome. There will definitely be people here as well right now that you're just not sure, and that's okay as well. We sometimes we often work with people that are like, I don't know what that one thing is, and we help them figure that out. We sometimes work with people like Jillian that was more about, okay, what can you do within this? How can we focus in and those things there? So anyone here that does have a larger following, over 10,000 followers, there's probably a good chance that your one thing is actually Instagram. Not always, right? And it depends how you built it, what that looks like, how engaged your audience is, those things there. But that's kind of a clue within that as well. Sometimes people's one thing is not something that they are super excited about. They don't necessarily understand how it works. Let's say the one thing could be email outreach. Some people might be like, oh, that can't be my one thing. It's like, well, it could be. Once you learn more about it and understand how it works, that could be a really effective one thing as well. So, really, really powerful. Well, look, we've got one more thing we're going to be sharing. Another one thing. We're going to share one more thing, and then we're going to dive into some questions. We did get sent some questions in before as well. Please post any questions in the chat. We won't be able to probably get through everything, but we'll get through what we can within this as well. And I see Jessica's posted something, and also we've got another question from earlier on around time tracking from you there, Ela, as well. So we'll make sure we address them if we can. And other people, feel free to post questions in and we'll address what we can. So pop them in the chat. We're going to go through the next thing, the final piece here before we jump into Q&A. And that is about client boundaries, right? So I talked about boundaries within your own business and within yourself there, but let's also talk about boundaries with the people that you are working with, right? This is really, really important. Now, we occasionally work with people who are people that have been in business for a long time. Sometimes they've already been in business for a year, part or full time. Sometimes they've been in business for 10 or 20 years. And one of the things that we often see with people that have been in business for a long time that it's not really working really well for right now is that they don't have good boundaries with their clients. They're feeling very overwhelmed by their work. So maybe they're earning okay income, but they are working all day and all night to get it happening. They're like, I have to work on weekends, I have to work on evenings, I'm earning X amount, which is okay, I'd love doing a bit more, but also I'm just so overwhelmed. And my goodness, I get client calls on a Saturday, right? They have to work on a Sunday to get things finished. Having boundaries with your clients is really, really important, because if clients can ring you on a Saturday, they will. They're just trying to get stuff done as well. So if you answer the phone on a Saturday, they're going to be like, oh, okay, well, I guess you answer the phone on Saturdays. So this is where setting your own boundaries are really, really important. We get that you want to work with more clients and you want to be seen as flexible and you want to have clients say yes and you want to build long-term relationships. Actually having good boundaries with those clients is going to help those relationships overall. So one of the big things we recommend here is definitely clarity around relationships in things like proposals. Right. So when you send a proposal to a client, if you are doing a proposal, actually putting some things in there around boundaries, around what's involved and what's not involved. It could be things as simple as, here's the number of edits you're going to get. Here's the expectations around when you'll reply to me about these edits. Or here's when I'm contactable. There's lots of different things you can include in proposals, but that's one place. So you're very upfront around what is involved in this relationship and what is not. Another place is contracts. Right, so they've agreed they're going to work with you. Great. Okay, well, making sure there's a contract in place that is an agreement that basically says what you are doing and what you are not doing. One of the things I would say to be very careful with when it comes to contracts is not to hide stuff in a contract. Right? People do this all the time. They hide stuff in the contract, which is like maybe around the edits or availability or how you work or whether you are or aren't contactable in this way, or you'll reply within this time frame. Well, it's technically in the contract, but they probably won't read the contract. Most people glaze over contracts, so they may not be aware, and they're going to step over those boundaries. So sometimes it's also important to tell them in the proposal process, or even when you send the contract or send the confirmation, you outline some other bullet points. Here's some extra things to note as well, even if they're in the contract as well. So boundaries are really important. Sometimes boundaries are the start. It's good. You set the boundaries. The second part of it is actually keeping those boundaries, right? Keeping those boundaries, because what's going to happen is someone's going to need you to do something. They say, oh, let's say you've said you get one round of edits for this work that I've designed for you. And then you do the round of edits. And then they say, oh, I've just got one more thing. And it's very easy to go, oh, yeah, no worries. It's going to only take me 20 minutes. All good. And then they'll be going, and just one more thing, and just another. And then the next time we work with them as well, they'll expect that. So part of it is holding those boundaries as well, right? And being polite about it and saying, totally, as per our agreement here, we only hit one set of edits here. Happy to do more edits. Here's what that will cost, right? And if you can be upfront when you did the proposal, if you need more edits, here's what they'll cost, even easier, right? So part of it is maintaining those boundaries. Or we talked about communication. I think you don't have to be available outside of standard general work hours. Most most places that looks like 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. You should not have to answer phone calls or emails on a weekend, right? So that's something to be very aware of, is that some clients might just feel like that's what you're going to do, and they'll call you, they might have your number. You do not need to pick up. That's kind of on you, right? If you've got that boundary and then you're not maintaining, you're picking up going, well, I better answer this call. Well, they're going to start to expect that you're going to answer, right? And we've seen that before with clients we've started working with. They're like, Logan, I get called at all sorts of random times. I get these last minute things, people contacting me with. Actually, that's kind of on them, because they need to set those stronger boundaries up front, and then they actually need to hold those boundaries as well, right? So it's an important part of this as well. So holding those boundaries is challenging at times. You get to decide. You may decide, hey, you know what? Some of the boundaries, I'm going to let them do. I'm going to give them that extra edit, but acknowledge it. Say, hey, I don't normally do this, or this is outside of our agreement. I'm going to do it this one time. Be careful about doing that, because they might come to expect it as well. I think this is a big, powerful topic. I think, Jillian, we could probably always run a whole webinar on this stuff here, but what are your thoughts around that boundary side from your journey in your business?
Yeah, it's a huge one, and it's a really big learning curve, and something that I'm still definitely will always be working on. But I think what I've learned in the past like year of coaching has just been that a huge part of your relationship with your client is also educating them. A lot of people that I end up working with, and I'm sure a lot of you end up working with, are people that have never worked with a creative or an illustrator before. So they like don't know what to expect or what anyone's boundaries are. So just laying that out up front, and I like to in my initial emails with them say like 3 revisions, 1 concept, like really lay out clearly what your process is and what they can expect from you in the very beginning of your chats. That can really help you in long term when they come asking for that like 4th revision, and you have to say, sure, but it's going to be this amount because I've already told you that. And if you have a very clear process that you can tell them, everything will be so much smoother for you. So yeah, it's a really, really important step.
I love it. And, it's so important to just acknowledge this. What Jillian said here, right? People don't necessarily know what your boundaries are. So you got to tell them. You don't need to be rude about it. You just let them know, right? And then let them know when they're stepping over the boundaries as well. It's easy to get angry and annoyed. How dare you? Don't contact me this time, or just to let you know you shouldn't be doing this. Or I already told you that. Well, no, we've got to do it in polite ways, because people don't read the fine print, or people don't know your boundaries. So I love what Jillian brought up there as well. Cool. Let's jump into some questions. So we were sent in some questions before, so we will talk about them, and then we'll dive into ones in the chat as well. So the first question is kind of a good one. Someone sent us a message saying, are murals worth it in terms of the pay, or is it more just about visibility, right? So in terms of the time you need to put into murals, and I know, Jillian, you'll definitely have some ideas around this. There's a short answer, there's always a long answer as well. The short answer is yes, they are worthwhile. Yes, you can be paid very well for murals. We have a good number of clients that do murals as part of their core offerings, or sometimes we have people that mainly just do murals, right? We've got some clients that really focus in on that. Yes, you can build a whole business based off just murals. We've seen that. You can also build a business where it's a core part of your offerings, and it is a really good way to earn good revenue. You can get a good return on your time as well. Because really, one way to think about murals is that they are a big piece of art that you're able to put in a big format, right? Yes, you've got to take into account things like painting time, materials, the different elements that, it can be quite complex as well. And making sure, doing murals, sometimes you need to get a scissors lift or some scaffolding, right? There can be costs involved there that you need to be aware of as well. However, murals can also be very, very valuable. One of the things I love about murals is that there can be a really good return on that investment for the people that you are creating the mural for, right? So we talk about, for example, creating a mural for a cafe or a restaurant, right? There is a lot of good evidence out there that says that good creative murals will actually increase foot traffic to a restaurant or a cafe, which will overall increase their revenue. Right, so there's actually a return on that investment. Hey, if you go and spend $5,000 on this mural, you're going to see a return on investment based on you actually having more customers, right? That's a really amazing thing. Another area, Airbnbs, right? It's something that you can get into as creating murals for people's Airbnbs. Once again, there's a lot of evidence out there that says people are more likely to book an Airbnb with really amazing artwork, right? So this is another thing to think about as well. So certainly the answer is kind of a medium-term answer, but I would love to hear your perspectives from your journey around murals as well, Jillian.
Yeah, I fully agree. I think that murals are definitely a lot of work, but if you take into account your like expenses and the time that you spend, you just have to make sure that you're charging appropriately for this. And then they are usually my highest paying gigs because it is a huge space that I am painting, so I can charge appropriately for that. But yeah, I will say like my early ones, I definitely wasn't charging appropriately for that, as I'm sure a lot of you can relate to, but they got my name out there. So there's also a sort of give and take there where you are, there's maybe some compromise if you're doing your first mural. Maybe you're not getting paid as much as you should be, but you're also putting your name out there. So yeah, it's a little bit of both. It's brand visibility and you can also get paid really well. So it depends on what you're charging.
It's so powerful, and I think exactly what Jillian's saying is it's also easy to not charge for murals. We sometimes see people early on like not charging, we're not charging much for them. You've just got to be aware of that as well. You still got to do the numbers, right? The numbers of what's the time involved here, what are the costs of the materials, things here as well. Look, we've had clients that have done mural projects that they got paid 20, 30, or even $40,000 for. Right, there can be really big projects, and that's not necessarily on the side of a skyscraper building either. Sometimes it is for, yes, commercial organizations, co-working spaces. I've mentioned Airbnbs, lots of different applications and murals as well. Cool. We're going to keep moving through some more of these questions here, and we got a question quite early on, so I'll just pull that up there too. So any suggestions for time management tracking for our individual work schedules that you swear by? If you have anything you want to add, fire that in the chat, Jillian, but I think we might have similar answers too. Look, one of the ones that I am really loving these days is what we call a cuckoo timer. It's kind of based on the Pomodoro technique. So those of you that have heard of this, it's this pretty simple idea of setting a fixed amount of time and working and focusing for that fixed amount of time. Now, there's a really cool application that does this. It is called the Cuckoo Timer. I'm going to drop this in here because it is really, really simple and pretty cool. And you can actually check out more. What it does is it just sets a timer for you focusing. So you can set up your own time. It's free to set up. And you can say, I'm going to work for 25 minutes. Then you're focusing in. And then it sets up a 5-minute break. So that is one way, not necessarily of tracking the time, but of using time effectively. So that's one thing that I will mention. There is actually a lot of other time tracking things out there. Rescue time is one that we used to use at Flambeau as well. That is one that you could check out too. Once again, I'm going to drop the link in here too. So rescue time is another one that you use in time tracking. So hopefully that gives you some direction there as well for that one. We're going to keep moving through, see if we can get through a few more of these questions. So just looking at my notes here. Next one I want to talk about is the question from Jessica here. So hope you're doing well, Jessica. Good to see you again. Jessica sharing, I constantly hear that as an artist should be focusing on email marketing, growing the email list, nurturing it instead of social media. So with social media, so you actually own the list versus being on a third party. What are your thoughts? Oh, that's a great question. I love that one. Yes, recommend having an email list, definitely, for sure, for the reasons put there, is that in the end, you do not control your social media. You could lose access to that, right? You've got an Instagram following, big or small, you do not own that following. Overnight, Instagram could block you. Someone could hack you. You can lose the account. We've seen it happen. We've seen it happen, people. This is not just, someone on the internet. We've seen it happen to clients. Good thing is it's pretty rare, but people can lose access. Sometimes they can get it back. It's a bit of a nightmare in the meantime. An email list, you own that email list, right? So you have people's details. And that means that you can contact them. Let's say you did lose your social media following. If you have an email list, you can email them saying, hey, here is my new social media. You're probably not going to be able to do that for everyone because you're not going to have everyone's email, but it actually gives you a bit more control. It also allows you to connect with your audience in different ways as well, to have, for example, a regular newsletter. So if people are using Instagram, well, they're not going to always be seeing your content. There's a ton of content that's on Instagram. However, most people are going to be getting your email. So what we generally recommend is, yes, if you can have an email newsletter, that's a great thing to do. Maybe post once a month or 3 times per year, but have a way of collecting people's emails, have some form of incentive for why people would give their email in the first place, right? So that could be some sort of freebie or downloadable. It's something that you should be working on right from the start of running a business, where possible, building that email list. Even if it starts off with one person who probably is your mum, right? Or your cousin or your friend, that's fine, doesn't matter. You start there and start to build up that email list. So definitely recommend that as well. What are your thoughts on that one there, Jillian, as well, just before we move on?
Yeah, I started my newsletter like recently after working with you, because I didn't really have that, but it's sort of just like an assurance thing where, like, if I do lose my following overnight, I still have some way to contact the VIP people that actually want to hear from me because they're on my email list. Yeah, so I've been enjoying that, and the way that I've been getting people to sign up is by doing monthly like pattern freebies um for like wallpaper. So yeah, it's just like a little side thing. It's not my main thing, but I have a way to contact people if things go wrong at some point.
It's so powerful, and and that it will build up over time here as well. For those that start the email list, like, it takes time, that's all good, but actually having that is so powerful as well. And look, I'm sure there's people here right now, Jillian, that saw your email about this webinar, and that's how they're here, which is great. So it's another way to talk to your audience too, which is good. Hey, we are going to see if we can cover off a few more questions. There's one more thing there about that survey I talked about, the freebie course. I'm going to drop that link in again. Pop it open. I'd love everyone just to pop it open, even if you're not sure if this is for you. As I said, these are some free calls to be giving away. We're selecting people, calls with me, calls with Paul from my team as well. So do pop that open. We'll send it through in an email afterwards as well, but pop it open now if you're here live with us. Now, just checking through our notes here, we've got some more questions coming through. Carolyn there, do you need a signature style? Do you need a signature style? I think this is quite a big open-ended question. We would probably want to dig into this a little bit more, so we're going to give you kind of a general thought around this. My answer is actually no, you do not need a signature style to build a successful creative business, right? A signature style often will evolve as you build your business, right? So that's something to really think about. Is some people go like, I have to perfect my creative skills, I have to come up with signature skill to even start a business. So we're like, no, you can actually get going. If you've got creative skills and abilities that you can do, and you can actually help other people through services, through products, great, you can start a business, you can get rolling. Over time, you may develop more of a signature style, and that's actually okay. But we actually work with people right now that actually don't have a signature style, and they may never have a signature style. They do have lots of different styles, and that's part of it as well. We'd love to hear your thoughts around signature style as well, Jillian, with what you do.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I don't think that you need to have a signature style in order to get started. Like, I was doing this way before I had any idea what my style was or what I even really liked to draw. Like, I was just posting things that I drew on the internet, and like the gigs were just coming in. So I don't think there's any need to wait. And I think that like whatever you draw that comes from your hand and your brain is your style, and it will adapt and change over time. But yeah, there's no need to wait.
Yeah, it's so important, and you'll adapt, you'll learn as you go, which is part of it too. Katie, we're gonna look at your question here. So, how do you maintain your boundaries as regards to working hours when you're working across different time zones? Oh, that's a really good question. That's a great one. So, look, if you're working across multiple different time zones, part of your job is to get very good at understanding the different time zones that your clients are in. So the worst thing to do is to have a big email correspondence with a client trying to work out a time to meet. If you're in a different time zone from them, they're going to be like, this is so annoying, I would rather work with someone locally, right? So we need to be very aware. If you are in a different time zone, let's say, for example, you are living in Europe and your client is in the US, or vice versa, you're in the US and your client is in Europe, you kind of need to make sure that you understand that time zone difference very clearly, and you know what time it is in Europe right now or in the US right now. So for example, on your calendar, right, those of you that use G Calendar, Google Calendar, you can put a secondary time zone in, right? Have that in there. So you always know, okay, I know what time it is right now. The other thing that you can do is you can use great tools like Calendly, right? Calendly is a great tool because you can set your own availability, and then whatever shows up, you can send that to a client saying, hey, would love to get on that call. Here's my availability. You can book that in. They are only going to see availability in their time zone. Right. So Jillian and other clients we know that we work with know this, right? They are never thinking about where their coaches or where the team that is supporting them are. They're actually just going, here's the availability, great, make it nice and easy. So you want to make it really easy for the people that you are working with. If you're creating boundaries or barriers or difficulties, being like, oh, sorry, that won't work for me because of this, or what time is it for you? Oh, well, I'm in this place. Well, where are you right now? Oh, and even as I mentioned before, daylight savings, well, there's a lot of challenges this time of year for people trying to work across time zones. So part of it is getting really good at understanding the different time zones, thinking about things like daylight savings as well, and using tools like, as I mentioned, Google Calendar, using things like Calendly as well to understand that. So I mentioned right at the start of this call, I'm actually in Argentina for 2 months right now. Argentina is only 1 hour off East Coast time. I'm very aware of that. Most of our clients we work with are between Pacific time and East Coast time in the US and Canada. Right, we have a few clients slightly outside that, and we have some clients in Europe as well, and occasionally elsewhere too. But we need to get really clear on that too and make things as easy as possible for our clients rather than it's difficult for them. Also, once again, good communication and clear boundaries. What are the times that you are and are not available? What's your reply time? Right, if you're like worried about the fact that there's a difference between the time zones, well, don't promise them that you're going to reply within an hour. You might want to say to them, hey, just let you know I'm going to reply within 24 hours to any communication. So things like that are very important as well. Cool. Okay, so we are going to see if we can dive into another question here just before we wrap up. So just bear with me here. Christine Graham sharing, is fine art, street, landscape, or other non-client photography, can that be a viable business? Yes, absolutely. It can be a viable business. We've worked with lots of different types of businesses over the years. As I said, the core of whom we end up working with in the creative space, the visual creative space, tends to be more of the people within graphic design, illustration, murals, those type areas. We've worked with people outside that as well. And yes, there's opportunities in lots of different areas. We've worked with photographers as well. And for sure, one of the things though, we need to be aware of is understanding what the need in the world is. So is there a need for the things that you're sharing here, non-client photography or landscape, fine art? Yes, there's a need for those things in the world, but part of your job as a creative business owner will be to find the right people, get your message to the right people that have that need, right? So that's one of the big things here is that you need to get clear on what are the needs, where are the people, who actually is paying for this stuff here as well, right? Because we could say, well, some of these things here, you might struggle to make them work in some places if you don't have the right approach to marketing. And we sometimes hear that. We hear people come to us and say, oh, yeah, this sort of work here doesn't work in the city. And we're like, well, what are you doing to market yourself? And they're like, oh, well, I use Instagram. Instagram's my thing. And I'm like, great, no offense, but I've checked your Instagram and you've posted once in the last 8 months. Right? So I don't think you are really using Instagram. And there's nothing wrong with that. We're going to then help them to figure this stuff out. It's okay. But we need to be aware, is it that there's not opportunities in this area, or are you just not doing the marketing? And if you are doing the marketing, is it to the right people? Is it showing up in the right places? Are you being proactive around these things as well? So once again, kind of another whole topic we could talk more about, but we will get towards wrapping things up here today. Honestly, the hour often flies by with things like this, but it's just been such a delight connecting with everyone. What Jillian and I would love you to do now is we would love you to put in one takeaway in the chat. Okay, what's one takeaway from today's webinar? What's one thing that you've learned? What's one thing you found helpful? Whatever you want to put in here, we'd love everyone to put in a takeaway. It's going to do several things. One is it's going to help us to understand what's helpful for you. We always like that. But also it's going to help you to really firm down those ideas. Make sure you're learning from this webinar as well. So just giving everyone a moment to add in a takeaway. It could just be one sentence, one word. What's something you've got out of it? What's something you've learned or going to apply? Pop in a takeaway, even if you're on your phone today, see if you can type that in, because then we'll just briefly go through some of the takeaways. and then we'll be able to wrap things up for today as well. So starting to pop through here, marketing to the right people, Christine, absolutely. It's a really powerful one. The amount of times, as I said, we've seen people who aren't marketing, but then they are marketing. It's not going to the right people there as well. Katie sharing, yeah, thanks for the time zone advice. Yeah, the time zone thing's pretty interesting actually. It definitely can be challenging if you're not used to it. Marketing advice is so helpful. There's so much messaging out there. The artists need to diversify and be everywhere, having permission to focus. Honestly, I know, I get it. We see it as well. I kind of cringe when I see it online, the internet saying things, and I'm like, no, that doesn't work. Don't do that. Telling people to do that, right? It gets a little frustrating. But Andrea's sharing here, it's worth the time and energy to a mailing list. Absolutely. Appreciate thought of doing things are good enough. Absolutely. You can kind of use it, Andrea, as a bit of a mantra of like good enough. Is this good enough, right? You can have that voice in your head there as well. It's a really, really good one. Boundaries, Carolyn. Absolutely. So important. Learn your own rhythm for work days and set boundaries around that as well. Amazing. Keep adding things into the chat here just as we start to wrap up. It's so good to see what people are adding. We're going to wrap up for today. It's been awesome. Jillian, it's been a fun one, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been really good.
Awesome. We're going to wrap things up there. Do have a lovely rest of your day. Would love to be connecting with some of you. Fill in that survey, pop that open. As I said, we'll send it through afterwards as well. And we'd love to connect with you via Instagram. I'm sure we'll be in touch via DMs with some of you as well. So do take care. Have a lovely rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, depending on which time zone you happen to be in today. We're going to wrap things up there and take care. We'll be in touch soon. Awesome. Take care.
Bye.